Hey everyone, you don't want to know what's going on in Aiken. You want to know what's shaking in Aiken. Hey, thanks for tuning in again. This is Brian Katonic, real estate agent with Remax Tattersall and your Aiken native. And on this show, we talk about things going on in Aiken, where to eat, what to do, and all kind of interesting things having to do with Aiken. As you know, here has been a crazy hot week here in Aiken. And it's kind of amazing. I tell my kids all the time, they can't believe it. So I grew up on a house at 801 Hain Avenue. My parents still own the house. It's on Hain, big 3-story white house right where Fallbrook runs into Hain. And I grew up in a house with no air conditioning. That's right. There was not any air conditioning. Now it had very high ceilings, like 15-foot ceilings, and had ceiling fans, but we did not have air conditioning. I can barely make it from the car into my house now when it's 98 degrees. I know it must have been just as hot in the summer back then, but you know, when you're around it all the time, used to it, you don't really even notice. I remember the only thing looking back in high school and college, I would date girls, and we would date in April and May, and then June would come, and about halfway through the month of June, we'd be watching TV at my house, and all of a sudden they would stand up and just say, this can't happen anymore. I'm out of here. And they'd walk out, and I would notice the makeup coming off their face and their hair, which was kind of up in what I would call a big old chicken hairdo back in the 80s hairdo. If you're from the 80s, know what I'm talking about, the 80s chicken hairdo. It'd be falling down over their eyes. And it never dawned on me till later on, they couldn't deal with no air conditioning. So mom and dad, you really stymied my dating life during that time not having AC. Because of that fact, I keep my air on about 68 degrees, and my wife walks around with a sweater on most of the time. So with it being summertime and the hot weather, there's not a whole lot in regards to events going on in Aiken. Now, if you have school-age kids, you probably know with the new school schedule, the year-round schedule we have, school goes back on Monday, which is crazy to me that school starts the end of July. And because of that, the YMCA is having a thing. If you're in need of school supplies or anything like that, they've been doing this for 14 years. It's called Fit for School. And basically it's a way for kids, and it's for kids that don't really have a lot, but anyone can go to get school supplies, a medical checkup, and even haircuts. So that's right. Your kid, if you want to go down on Saturday, get a haircut, and all is for free. So how it works, you go down to the YMCA in Aiken between 10 and 1 on Saturday, and you simply pull up in the parking lot, and there's volunteers out there handing out notebooks and pencils and all kinds of stuff kids need for the start of school. As I said, if your child needs a haircut, there are people over there from Kenneth Schuler School of Beauty that will give free haircuts, and even someone there providing health exams. So it's a wonderful thing for the community. Again, it's been going on 14 years, and it's always been hosted by Everett Chandler, who I've known well. He's a lawyer in Aiken, great guy, and Everett's been helping make this happen during the last 14 years. So shout out to Everett. As far as the big news in Aiken this weekend, I would say the biggest news has to do with the owner of George Funeral Home, Cody Anderson. If you don't know George Funeral Home, if you haven't been here that long, George is, I would guess, probably the oldest funeral home in Aiken. It's located on Park Avenue, beautiful building. They've always done a great job for the funerals I've been involved with. So it came out in the news yesterday that Cody and a gentleman named Thomas Bateman have been indicted by a federal grand jury in Columbia on bank fraud and conspiracy to commit bank fraud. These are very serious crimes. They carry up to 30 years in jail. And this involves the allegation that, and this stems from something which has been in the court system on and off for the last 2 years. So here's what the bottom line is. They are accused of trying to defraud a woman named Margaret Crandall. Miss Crandall is deceased, but what the allegation is that they induced her to write a will when she did not have her mental capacities. So here how the whole story has gone. Miss Crandall died in January 22. Not long after dying, Wanda Scott and Ray Massey filed with the probate court in Aiken her last will, which was done in 2001. Cody then filed a will of Miss Crandall, which was done in May of 2020. In the lawsuit brought against Cody, Wanda Scott and Ray Massey alleged that Ms. Crandall was not mentally incompetent at the time that she did the May 2020 will, and therefore alleged that that will should be dismissed. In checking with the public records for Aiken County, on April 21st, 2022, the court issued an order dismissing Cody's claim, but the dismissal was not on the fact that Ms. Crandall was mentally incompetent, but based upon the fact that the will was not executed properly by witnesses and notary under South Carolina law. Therefore, with his will being dismissed, Ms. Scott and Ray Massey went forward with probate on their will from 2020. However, the ink had barely dried on that order when Cody then brought a lawsuit in June 2022 alleging several things against Ms. Scott and Mr. Massey, including slander. And if you look up that summons and complaint, Cody alleges that after the case was thrown out, and again, not thrown out due to a order that Ms. Crandall was indeed not competent, but due to a technicality, allegations were made by Cody that Ms. Scott and Mr. Massey had made defamatory comments about him both personally and in his professional life, regarding in part that other lawsuits be coming against him due to taking advantage of Ms. Crandall in her mental capacity. So this lawsuit was filed, several motions were filed with it. And then on October 17th, 2022, there's an order where the judge dismissed the case and stated that on that date, there was a hearing scheduled in front of the court in regards to a motion, and that the parties informed the court that the matter had been resolved. I couldn't find anything in the public records stating how it had been resolved, but it's not uncommon for a matter to be resolved and the parties just dismissed the case without putting the agreement as part of the public record. So it appeared in October 2022, the whole matter was done. However, as I said, this indictment from the federal grand jury has now come down. So now we have this federal indictment. The U.S. Attorney's Office will handle the case. There's no timetable for when the case will go forward, but it is a serious situation for Cody. So I know Cody. I've always liked him. He's been on several boards at USC Aiken. He's been very active in the community. In fact, he has a beautiful home on Richland Avenue, a really stately looking home. Richland, where it goes up the big hill almost as you get to Walmart. And he has pledged this home to USC Aiken upon his death. So I wish Cody the best of luck, and it'll be interesting to monitor how the situation goes on. Okay, I may be the minority, but I think English food gets a bad rap. Shepherd's pie, fantastic. Fingers and mash, give me another helping. So when I'm looking for good English food, some Guinness or something else, I head down to the Regal Beagle. Yeah, that's right, the Regal Beagles. You're going to have a great time. You're going to know someone there. That's it. You're going to have a friend there. English music, so head down there, ask for Jack, Janet, or Chrissy. That Chrissy, not too smart, but she'll take care of you. So tell them Brian sent you to the Regal Beagle Pub. Okay, everyone, very pleased today to have a great guest, Jackie coming, and it's Koski, right?
It's Koski. You almost got it. You got it like
Koski.
98% right. Good job.
I know. With a name like Katonic, I should never mess anything up.
I know.
So this is a road trip. Jackie is from Aiken.
That's right.
She
Born and
does
bred.
not live here now, but she has a wonderful story. She's a financial planner, a financial educator. So Jackie, welcome to What's Shaking in Aiken.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, this is my home. All of my family still live in Aiken. So I always hail that as that is my home and that's where I'm from.
Right.
So nice to be here.
And so where'd you grow up here in Aiken?
I grew up in a little area called Petticoat Junction. I don't know if you've heard of that. Okay. So it's kind of between Newelleton and Beach Island. So all my Petticoat Junction people, shout out. So yeah, we had a little house. I remember it was down this long dirt road, which I hated. Yeah. But so we lived in the country part, and I don't know, back then almost everything seemed like the country. But that's where I grew up. I went to for elementary school. I did go to Millbrook. Remember that?
In Aiken.
For middle school in Aiken. For middle school, moved us back to Jackson Middle School, and then I graduated from Silver Bluff High School, 1988.
Okay. And then after Silver Bluff, what'd you do?
After Silver Bluff, I did decide to go to college, and I ended up going to, now they've changed their name 3 times, but at the time it was Augusta College. Then they changed their name to GRU, and now they changed it back to Augusta State, and then at some point it was Augusta University. I think right now it's Augusta University.
You
So
know,
that's where I went to college. So I still lived in Aiken, and I just drove to Augusta College every day. I was living with my brother Charles at the time. Everybody know Charles Cummins. He was owner of Triple C Sports, but
mhm.
so I lived in actually it was New Ellerton. And so it was only like about a 15 or 20-minute drive just across the bridge. And so I just went to school every day and I worked every day. I worked at Walmart in Aiken, which they're still there. They have a different location. But I mainly did office work, but it paid the bills, getting through college. So I stayed in this area all the way through college graduation.
Now, what's impressive about you, Jackie, is you're not someone that came from a silver spoon and just kept being successful. You came up from pretty modest background, didn't you?
Yeah, modest is probably the nice word. We were in poverty and it wasn't fun to talk about when you're a kid, in high school that, you're the poor kid. But I I was raised by a single dad with 6 kids. So
Wow.
I don't know how he did it. He's my greatest hero and always will be. So we all lived in it was like I said, we lived down a dirt road, but it was a small literally, I think we formerly had 2 bedrooms, but we made it into a whole bunch more trying to get 7 people in there. So yeah, we weren't on the only public assistance we were on was the free lunch program at school. So it was never on welfare or food stamps or anything like that. And I think the reason for that is because my dad still worked his butt off. He worked a full-time job. I don't know if it's still around, but he worked at Graniteville Mill and he always had a part-time job or did something like helping in construction. He was great with his hands and building things. So he was always working. And so his income was probably just above the cutoff for a lot of the public assistance. But
Right.
he was a proud man too. So that probably had something to do with it. But yeah, it was tough growing up. And, the thing that stuck with me was that, I didn't want to be in poverty when I got older. So that was sort of the motivation to go to college and to try to get a good job. Back then, my dad told me everybody else as well is like, you get a good job with good benefits, so you can pay your bills. And that was the path.
Right. So were you always interested in finance since that's what you do now, or?
No, I was not interested in finance, Brian. I was into journalism and writing, and my major at Augusta College was broadcast journalism. I even
Okay.
interned at Channel 6, and Channel 6 is still around.
It's still
So I
around, yeah.
interned, I interned at Channel 6. I love that intern, but back then you didn't have to pay your interns. So I didn't get paid for interning there. I mean, it was like a privilege. It was prestigious to, be an intern reporter at Channel 6. So so I was an intern and I wanted to be in broadcast journalism, writing and things like that. So honestly, my career took a detour again, just trying to get the good job. And I ended up, my first move out of the Aiken, Augusta area was to Bentonville, Arkansas, because I was working at the Walmart in Aiken, and I ended up getting a job, my first job out of college, in Bentonville, Arkansas, at Walmart headquarters. So it was in corporate communications, but honestly, if money was not the factor, I would have kept my job at Channel 6
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
did start getting paid a little bit. But I moved all the way to Arkansas, and that was a really tough move because I moved away from everything that I knew, and it was corporate communications, but throughout my career, I ended up being sort of in, working for a global data company for over 20 years. And it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't what I loved to do. And throughout that process, somehow I discovered the financial literacy stuff because I was getting financially literate myself. So my career had nothing to do with personal finance. I really wasn't into it growing up. I mean, it just wasn't something that was talked about.
Right.
So yeah, this is kind of new, honestly, over the last 10 or 15 years.
I've always thought, Jackie, and we'll talk about this later, that understand personal finance is such an important thing. And unless kids get it at home, they don't teach it at school. But we'll talk about later. That's changing. So,
Right, right.
so eventually, after doing your job for 20 years, is that when you stepped into the finance sector at that point?
Yeah, and while I was doing it, so probably one of the big pivot points for me was I got married when I was in Bentonville, Arkansas. I had a daughter, and then I was married for about 10 or 12 years, and I ended up getting a divorce. And that was the moment that woke me up about my finances because there was this huge, a lot of times, we don't do anything different until something big happens, or
Right.
something goes wrong. So during my divorce, basically what they do, well, you was an attorney. So, you, we were married for over 10 years. So basically, all the assets or all the money goes into one pot and you split it down the middle. And so really we didn't have much of anything except, the house was probably upside down. We had
Yeah.
loans on the
Yeah.
cars. So what was left was our 401ks. Okay. So we had similar salaries and similar company matches. So I had $20,000 in my 401k and I'm in my mid 30s and I had no idea if that was good or what, but I had $20,000 and I'm like, seems okay. Well, my husband, he had $120,000 in his retirement account. So that's a huge disparity. And I felt very financially ignorant. I felt like, how on earth could this even happen? So, when it was all said and done, it all got taken care of in the court proceedings. But I'm like, you know what? I have to do something about this. I need to learn about my finances. I need to learn how money works. And it took me about 2 years to kind of wake up and actually start doing something because, uh, divorces are emotionally draining. So it took some time to kind of process all of that. And so that's when I said, you know what, I am going to do something. What am I really interested in? I was really interested in the stock market. Now, that may not have been the best way to start learning about your finances, but for me, that's what got me excited.
Okay. How
And
about that?
once I, started learning about the stock market, I was very weary because, there's a lot of, trash out there when it comes to, these
Yeah.
great financial minds or whatever. So I ended up learning about an organization called Better Investing. It's nonprofit. And I joined that investment club to learn more about investing because the people were very smart. They were very approachable. They were willing to share and they were educators. So when I'm learning about all this, I'm backtracking. I'm like, well, I probably should know what my expenses are. I need to know my budget. I need to know what's going in, what's coming out. I need to be maxing out my 401k and my Roth IRA and my HSA because I learned you can invest in that. So all this personal finance stuff, comes together because it's all interwoven. So
Hmm.
when I went from becoming financially literate, getting financial educated, and starting to really move the needle and understand some of this stuff. What do we want to do as soon as we learn something? We want to teach it to our kids. And that was the impetus to my first book, Money Letters to My Daughter. And I basically was putting in all the lessons I had learned about money and personal finance. And that got me into the financial stuff.
How about that? So you wanted to share your message to your daughter so that she didn't wait till she was in her 30s to learn about
Right.
it and know right away. So,
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
say, Jackie, practice the law, I did a lot of divorces. Your situation was so, so similar to so many cases I heard, especially the female was like, I don't know what I have. I don't know what he has. I don't know what to invest. I don't
Right.
know. And it's that they may have a very good income, but as far as planning for the future, they had hardly anything.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that was another big deal, like learning the difference between income and assets, a huge difference because
yeah,
even if you make $300,000 a year, if you spend every penny, you probably don't have any assets
right.
because you haven't saved anything, you haven't invested anything. So all these little things, started going off in my head and it was really empowering. And of course, I wanted my daughter to have that same feeling a lot sooner than I did.
Right. Yeah, I've always told my kids when you go into Walmart, speaking of Walmart, and you have the greeters there, and they're like, 78 years old. I say, honey, they're not doing that because they like being on their feet 10 hours a day. They're doing that because they have to. They didn't plan for the future.
Right.
So, okay, so
Right.
you wrote the book, and then at that point, did you continue working on the financial education part?
Oh, I absolutely did. And it was the book that got me out of trying to do this personally for my daughter to doing it to a wider audience. Because once I wrote the book, I guess once you write a book, people think you're an expert.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I had a lot of schools asking me to come in and do a talk and teach the kids about financial education. So I'm like, Oh, sure, I could do that. And one of the big movements was as soon as I wrote the book, I ended up coming back home to Aiken, got with my brother, he's a big tall guy.
Yeah.
And so he got me into every high school, not just in Aiken County, but Barnwell and in the whole area. So for a whole week, we were doing nothing but going to schools. And I was talking about financial education, and I had my bodyguard brother being there taking care of the discipline problems. So I didn't have to worry about that. But I turned it into a presentation. And then I started doing a lot of fun things because I discovered one of the reasons why kids, young people especially, didn't get into money and personal finances because it was so boring, right? It was just not the most exciting topic. So I had to make it exciting. So
Yeah.
I started giving away these $2 bills. That was my first lesson about saving because I started saving ever since I had gotten my first job at Shoney's in Aiken. And I was saving these $2 bills because I thought they were special. And I continued collecting them and saving them until I was in my 30s. And my daughter's like, how many $2 bills do you have? I had 1,900 $2 bills. So that's
Really? How
$3,800.
about that?
Yeah. So I was like, I can't just I can't just turn them in at the bank. I can't just blow them at the store. So I started every time I would do a financial literacy session, a workshop, training. If you got a good question, you got a $2 bill. If you answer one of my questions, you got a $2 bill. And the kids absolutely love that.
I
So
bet.
I had so much fun with them. All of them wanted me to come in. I enjoyed doing it. But my first thought, after I got the book out and talking with my brother, because I don't know if I would have done this without him, but we hit all of the schools back in my hometown and my city. And so that was a big deal because more than anything, I want to help my community, the community that I came from, because there's so many other smart people just like me that might have grown up, in under modest circumstances like I did, that just need the exposure or a little something, or even the messenger to kind of talk about this stuff to maybe plant a seed and maybe get them to thinking, okay, what can I do to start, getting my finances right?
Right, right. I've read so many stories, I'm sure you have too, about these professional athletes who make great money for the 4 or 5 years they
Yeah,
play, and within
yeah,
3 or 4 years they're completely broke. And it really saddens me to see that. If they
yeah.
would have had someone say, "Hey, put this aside, don't touch that," and yeah, you have a little fun with what you have, but you don't want to be a brick mason after you are all pro tackle. You just
Right, right. And the main reason for that is that they don't have those money skills.
right.
And so all it takes is a slick salesman that sounds what he knows what he's talking about with some great sound bites, and he's got them. So
Right.
I at least want to try to equip people with some basic personal finance skills, maybe even how to just look for red flags, how to, look for a few things that are going to benefit you and to kind of have some basic understanding. But that's why it ends up happening is because they've never had that much money. They're not sure what to do. There's a lot of people in their ear saying, no, no, you should do this. This is the best thing. Oh no, do this. So it's crazy how quickly that can happen.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm sure most of my listeners know the Dummies series of books. I've been writing Dummies books for years. Dummies Guide to Your iPhone, Dummies Guide or whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Jackie has a brand new book and it's a Dummies Guide, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Dummies has been around since the 1980s. Mainly, if anybody's in technology, they know those Dummies book really well because that's how the For Dummies franchise started. It was in the technology field.
Right, right. And so what is your Dummies book you have?
My Dummies book is right behind me. It's called Fire for Dummies, and FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And it does what a Dummies guide does. It walks you through the basics and escalates you up and builds your knowledge until you are literally an expert by the time you get done, or at least on that particular topic. So that's what I've done with Fire for Dummies.
How about so Jackie, how does that work? Like, do you like write and then reach out to dummies and say, hey, you might be interested, or they reach out to you? How's that work?
Yeah, so mine was a little different. They part of their job, the For Dummies, or Wiley is the major company that the For Dummies brand is underneath. So for mine was a little bit different. I had a really good friend. She was also a financial planner, and she was I'm not even sure how she connected with them, but she was supposed to write a book called Wealth Building for Dummies.
Okay.
And she just didn't have the bandwidth to do it because she's building an amazing firm. And she sent me an email and she was like, hey, I told them I couldn't do it. So they asked me if I knew of anyone else. And I said, yeah, of course, I'd love to do it. And so I met with the acquisitions editor and she talked to me a little bit about what to expect and what it's about to see if I was truly interested. So I did, and I had to fill out like 18 pages of all kinds of stuff, my credentials,
Hmm.
my social media presence, the things that I've done, my education, all of that. So send that to her, and she gets back to me in about a week. She goes, well, everyone loved it, except we it was supposed to be wealth building for dummies, right? And they wanted to change the title because they saw all the stuff I did around fire. And they said, we think we should change the name to Fire for Dummies. What do you think? And I said, I think that's amazing. I said, I'm just happy that they made the connection that a big part of fire is wealth building.
Right.
So Fire for Dummies was born.
How about that? And that's been out how
Yeah.
long?
It came out on April 30th of 2024 this year.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's really new. It's been doing, outstanding. I've been very, very happy with it. My editors are happy. My brother's happy because he's been helping me with so much stuff with it. So I honestly, when I was in the throes of writing it, I mean, I had to create everything from the outline they have sort of the shell, but I am the expert. So I have to decide how it should be laid out, what the table of contents should look like, all of that stuff. And honestly, do most of the marketing and promotion.
Okay.
So honestly, any major publisher, that's pretty much the case. So
Yeah.
as a writer, I think when I was really young, I guess I thought that, if you work with a publisher, they do the marketing for you. No, the biggest thing they contribute is their name and their distribution. So
Right.
that has helped a lot.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
Jackie still loves giving back, especially to her hometown community. So you're going to be in Aiken in about a week or so, right?
I will. I'm so excited to be coming home. And I usually come home, I don't know, maybe once a year. It just depends. But again, just like my first book, the first thing I'm thinking about is my community. And to be honest with you, a lot of people, they've never heard of fire. A lot of people that I know. And I'm a part of the community, so obviously I know a lot about it. But I'm like, there's a whole bunch of people that have never heard of it, don't know what it is, and I want to help break it down for them. I'm very, very transparent with my numbers, so I'll be sharing my real numbers. That's an unusual thing,
That's
especially in
good.
the
Yeah.
financial world. But I'll be doing that all in the name of educating and financial literacy, because sometimes you really do need to see some moving parts to see how you can make adjustments and how it would work for you. So yes, my one of my early thoughts when the book launched is, okay, when am I going back home? So I started talking with my brother, and he pretty much knows everybody in Aiken. So
Yeah.
we started going from there. I partnered up with Umoja Village, and we are going to have a huge it's a community event. It's going to be at the Aiken Library, and the whole idea is to help share not only what I've learned, but financial education, what is financial independence, and creating the option to retire early, breaking it down in a very friendly, fun way. We're going to do some giveaways. So it's going to be a really fun day and a fun event that I'm just really honored that I get to come back and do for my community.
Right. And Jackie, I want to make sure I got right. It's Saturday, July 27th from noon till 2 p.m. at the library, correct?
Yes, at the Aiken Public Library. And we're gonna have an awesome time. So come on out. They can register. If they go to, again, I'm partnering with Umoja Village. So if you just go to emojavillage.com,
Okay.
you just scroll down, you'll see we got a fun name for it. It's called Aiken Gets Financially Fit. Aiken
And,
Gets Financially Fit. So
and
just go to Emoji Village, or you can find me on social media. I'm connected with a lot of my friends and family from the Aiken area. So we'll be sharing on, Facebook, Instagram. If you happen to be on LinkedIn, it'll be on there too. It'll be on YouTube, with you, Brian. So it'll be everywhere, but with the registration link. But we'd love for you to register. Let us know, that you're going to come out, and we're just going to make it a real fun day. It's the funnest, hopefully, that you'll have talking about money.
Right, right. And folks, if you just simply type in Jackie Cummings and the last name Koski, I simply did that and the link came up. You can register right there. And please register beforehand. That way they know how many chairs, how many people are going to be there. What's the charge for the event?
Yeah, you know what? It is absolutely free
Wow.
because partnered with Donna at Umoja Village, and we're offering this for free to the community. This is our gift to the community. We will have books for sale. So you don't have to worry about getting it ahead of time. We'll have those available. I will be signing the books. And you know, Brian, I also got to make sure I give out plenty of $2 bills. So
Exactly.
they're in these nice plastic casing. Let me see if I got one. But yeah, you'll get a $2 bill that can serve as a bookmark. You can purchase a Fire for Dummies book. Will be signed by me. I'll be signing them that day. But so let's say I'm from South Carolina. I got some special South Carolina. Yeah, look at here. So I got some special South Carolina ones because you know our Lady Gamecocks won the championship.
They
So
did. They did.
I'll be giving some of those away. I drop and sprinkle little $2 bills wherever I go. So we'll have all of that going on. So come out and get your book, get it signed. If you happen to already have the book, bring the book and I'll sign it for you that day. And we'll have, some refreshments. So we want to make it a really fun day for everyone that's coming out. There is no cost. We're doing this as our gift to the Aiken community, and we're really looking forward to it. It'll be on Saturday, July 27th.
Right. And Jackie also has a wonderful podcast talking all about fire. And Jackie, where can they find that podcast?
Yeah, so I do a podcast for late starters because a lot of us are late starters because we didn't talk about money, but it's called Catching Up to FI, which stands for Financial Independence. It's on every podcast player, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's also on YouTube with the video version, or you can go to our website, catchinguptofi.com.
Right. Well, Jackie, you are an inspirational woman. I mean, you kind of came up off the deck, had nothing, and have achieved greatness. And folks, you should really get out and see her. She's a great woman. You're going to learn a lot. And, a free event on a Saturday. It's going to be boiling hot outside. So come on inside. Have a great time. So, Jackie, we're going to see you then on the 27th.
All right, Brian. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting you too when I'm in town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much. Okay, guys, we got to talk about it. Our nails, mainly our toenails. Guess what? They're gross. We're guys, they're all gross. But go get a pedicure. It's fantastic. It's going to change your life. And do you know where you go? You go to Blue Cottage Salon and Spa. That's right. You go see Carrie. Okay, if you never have a pedicure, it's fantastic. It's warm water, almost too hot, but just right. Your feet soak. She cuts your toenails. Ugh, terrible. I mean, mine look like a bear. So, and then there's lotion. She rubs your legs. It's fantastic. You'll want to go back time and time again. If you want polish, don't tell me. So, head down. Carrie's going to take care of you. Blue Cottage Salon and Spa. Hey, ladies, she also does it for you too, of course. But get your guy in there. He needs it. Trust me, you know he needs it. So, go see Carrie, Blue Cottage Salon Spa, 803-221-5946. So if you know me, you know I love food. I love going out to eat. And I love just the business of restaurants. I'm interested in the background, how they started, what they do. And in fact, 25 years ago, I wrote a book on the best out-of-the-way or local restaurants in South Carolina. You can still get it on Amazon. It's pretty good. So I like doing restaurant reviews, but I do videos you may have seen. So I'm going to do some restaurant reviews here on our podcast. So I was thinking about what to start off with. And, I could go something high-end like Prime Steakhouse from Aaliyah, something in the alley. But I thought, what's that place where you just want to go and eat comfort food? Like, it's not good for you, but it's so good. So if you've never been to this place, it's called Little Howies. What? Yeah. Little Howies. So you go down Richland Avenue toward the farmer's market, and it's just before the farmer's market on Williamsburg Street. You can't miss it. So it's been there for a long, long time. So this is the kind of place, I'm looking at the pictures on their website, which I was amazed at a website, but I'm looking at fried chicken, I'm looking at country fried steak, French fries, fried okra, onion rings. you kind of get it now. It's fried. Now, they do have some stuff that's not fried, but they have fried shrimp, popcorn shrimp, fried fish. It's they actually have some salads. So it's a really good place, and it's the kind of place you go in there, and you might have a lawyer in front of you in line. You have a truck driver behind you. You have a guy who works at the bank next door to him, and you have a guy that works for the sanitation department after him. So it's a place for all the peoples to come on down. So it's not expensive. They just started taking debit cards not too long ago. You can get some good fried stuff. The coleslaw is really good. I used to not be a coleslaw fan. In public school, they used to force me to eat it, and they force you to do something that's not that good. But now I really like it. Mashed potato and gravy, green beans. Eat your green beans. They're good, and they don't have a lot of calories. So you're really not going to go wrong with anything there. So, head on down to Little Howies, again, right beside the farmer's market. It's not fancy at all. So it's someplace you're really going to enjoy. Oh, I forgot the hamburgers. The hamburgers are fantastic. So tell them Brian sent you. Would that get you? Nothing. That gets you absolutely nothing. But tell them you heard about it on what's shaking in Aiken. Although they don't even know I was going to talk about them on the podcast. So, maybe they'll listen. So that's my restaurant review for the day, Little Howie's Restaurant. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for Jackie coming on. She was really fantastic, wasn't she? So much knowledge and a great backstory. So, and get ready for next week when she's in town. Go down and see her at the library. I think you'll learn something. I'm going to make the trip. So, again, we always say, you don't want to know what's going on in Aiken. You want to know what's shaking Aiken. See you next week.